Hello and welcome back to the FPL Tom YouTube channel for a deadline preview stream. It's been a while since me and Jake have kind of sat down, got together and decided we wanted to bash one of these out, but we're back. We've had our little time away. We had Valentine's Day separately. We've come back. It's like, when your da leaves your ma for like a month, when things have just kind of fallen out of favour and, he's just got to kind of win her back a little bit. That's what I've done. I've got you some flowers. We had a nice night at the Holiday Inn, and now we're back here chatting about FPL. How are you doing, Jake?
I'm doing all right, thank you. Very, very timely meet up, really, because it was beginning to go off the rails, and we may just about save it before I need any rehab.
Yeah. I mean, looking at your team and some of the decisions that you've made over the past few weeks, questionable to say the least. I definitely think I'm your kind of
Guru.
stabilizers on a child's
Yeah.
bike. On really, I keep you level. I keep you keel.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
I mean, I can, yeah, because I can make my daft decisions, but I think there's daft and then there's just shambolic.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and we're only going to look at last week, so I could have got away with the captaincy choices I've made overall, but last week's wasn't actually that bad. But the week before with Watara, meanwhile, whilst he got a nice 4-pointer and Salah did everything possible to score against City,
It did indeed.
um, really didn't go very well. But we're back, and that's all that matters.
We are indeed back. Of course, there is a poll going around on the chat, so make sure you get your votes in for that one for the best captain. Obviously, we'll be discussing that a little bit later in the stream. We're also going to talk about potential Cunha and Mateta replacements, as well as Lewis Hall replacements. Also, going through our teams and our plans, of course, with the upcoming blanks and doubles on the horizon as well. Also, get your questions in as we'll answer them throughout today's stream. Let me know if my mic volume drops because it's still being a knobhead whenever I open Skype and just randomly falls off a cliff. But hey ho, it is what it is, and we'll try and work with it. Let's first off start off then, Jake, with you. Obviously, it's been a while since we've been together, so talk me through your game week 2017. What went well? What didn't go so well?
All right, sound. So, I mean, it didn't go abysmally. It just didn't go great. It was below average. But at least a few players did all right for me. And I think the main elephant in the room is the fact that for a second consecutive week, I decided to captain someone other than Salah. And Salah only got an assist. So I was quite quietly confident that Bowen could top that. And for a matter of moments, well, I'd say a little bit more than a matter of moments, but initially a matter of moments, I thought that Bowen had scored against Leicester. Then, of course, we saw the highlights or the replay and saw that it had clearly gone in off Vestergaard. But then FPL refused to change it immediately, giving me extra false hope that I'd hit the jackpot. However, it did end up being an assist for Bowen. So at least that matched Salah's scoring in that game week. But it still kind of supports the argument that you just stick with Salah. 9 times out of 10, you stick with Salah. Funnily enough, it's maybe one of those 1 out of 10 chances this week that we question that decision. But I'm sure we'll touch on that shortly. But yeah, on the whole, a pretty subpar performance, but it wasn't horrendous. It certainly could have been worse. I think Cunha getting sent off in the FA Cup has definitely affected how the transfer of him in has looked for me, because I definitely brought him in with the mind of having him having some decent fixtures ahead. Um, but lo and behold, he decides to get sent off in the 120th minute in an FA Cup game, just to spite me, I think. So, yeah, onwards and upwards, Tom. I don't really have too much more filler to say because there's not really much to talk about in my team.
It's all right, lad. I didn't have the correct team up for about 5 minutes there. I actually had your team up, my team up. Sorry, from last week. But yeah,
Oh,
Cunha.
Sam, well, yeah, great week, lads. We've done really well. Captain Salah. I was tempted with Bowen, but I went for Salah. And fortunately, Bowen didn't top it. Moving on.
Yeah, I think Cunha's obviously shafted a lot of people, hasn't he? I was very, very close to bringing him in last week as well, and I'm honestly so glad I didn't do it. I think if I'd done it, I would just be sat here in tears right now. Stuck with Visser. Visser got his goal, and yeah, obviously,
Kept his discipline in his pants.
I did keep the discipline. Right, let's head on then to this week and see how your team is obviously lining up. I've currently left it on Bowen captain. Obviously, we're going to talk about captaincy as well, which way you would go for it. I put everybody in, and I've not made any transfers for you so far. Obviously, you said I think you're going to roll. That's the plan, right?
I think that's the sensible decision considering the Liverpool Newcastle Cup final next weekend, meaning that there's a couple of games not playing. Yeah, I think that makes the most sense. I'm definitely going to be a little bit bare come next game week, so we'll have to touch on that either today or next week. And yeah, like we've said, Cunha being suspended, Hull being ruled out for the rest of the season is a real blow for many people's fantasies, I think, because it's not like they're rogue players that I've brought in. I've had Hull for a considerable amount of time. I think a lot of people will be feeling the pain of those two being ineligible for the games this weekend and for the foreseeable for Lewis Hall. However, as you can see, my team's kind of picked itself if I'm going to hold until next week.
Mm-hmm.
The only the only maybe sensible thing would be for me to consider bringing in a player if I want to strengthen this game week's team is if I'm going to bring a player in that's bound to play next weekend. So I'm open to suggestions. As much as I say I'll bank it, so I've got 2 transfers next week. I mean, my team's looking pretty mediocre looking at it. There are some half-decent fixtures. I mean, Palmer and Salah do spring to mind. There's a little bit of a conflict with West Ham and Newcastle in attacking means, but that doesn't cast any... that definitely doesn't rule out both of them having some goal contribution. So I'm not too fussed about that. Like I say, the team's kind of picked itself. I've got Onuachu on the bench. I don't know if you have. I can't see the screen.
Yeah, I've got him on the bench.
Yeah. So yeah, it doesn't look awful, but I feel like every position could be improved. There's no doubt about that. So it's just really whether you think just I've got enough to be going on with, or whether it would be beneficial for me to bring in an asset who is going to play next weekend.
I think it's a tough one, to be honest, because I think the team could get by this week, and I think that's probably going to be the better play, is waiting to see, because I think the worst thing that could happen for you is you bring someone in that plays next week, then we get to next week and he does whatever, like a Cunha or a Hall has done, and then he's out injured or out suspended. I think you're better just holding with the team you've got. It's not going to be the greatest week this week. And I think that's the advice I'm going to give for a lot of people as well. Just hold fire this week. Because, yes, there might be somebody that has a good fixture next week. But as we've seen with Cunha, people bringing him in last week, you can get burned very, very easily. Of course, there's European games as well midweek. So if you are bringing in somebody that has one of those, again, it could lead to further headaches that I think is just unnecessary. And I don't think you really need them at this point.
No, fair enough. I think the two, just having a brief look of 2 players that would spring to mind looking at the next few games is either taking out Hull, because at least then it's something I would have done anyway next week. But of course, either suggestion that I do make, both do run the risk of being injured. But I think that would just be simply sod's law. And if you're going to go for something, you just got to take the risk. Because I guess if you're making a transfer for this game week, there are still chances of getting injured or whatever. I think I am going to hold, but the only 2 suggestions I think that came into mind were potentially going for Aït-Nouri.
I like that.
For Wolves, because that could be a bit more of a long-term solution, because Wolves have a good few games. And then the other option being maybe looking at someone like Beto. But if I were to do that, I would be then eating another chunk of, I think I've got just over $1 million in my bank. I'd have to take Onuachu out because I think I would want Cunha next week. Is he? How many games is he out for?
Free match ban. Free match ban.
Is he fully out next week as well?
Yeah.
What a mock.
Free match ban for violent conduct.
Well, in which case, I think I would. I do still think it would be Onuachu. But even if I did take Cunha out for Beto, I think I'm still eating into funds if I later wanted to get Haaland. And of course, there is a wild card in a few weeks' time to consider. So maybe that wouldn't be an issue to worry about. But I think the standout thing that if I were to make a transfer this week, I think it would be a Wolves asset for Lewis Hall.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the play. We'll have a look at some defenders, maybe fill your ideas with some other players to potentially consider. Obviously, off air, we spoke about Salah and Palmer, which way to potentially go with captaincy. Which way are you currently leaning on the situation? Obviously, both have got great fixtures against really, really poor sides this season. You would argue, obviously, Southampton are the worst side, but we spoke about Ramadan potentially being an impact for Mohamed Salah, and of course the PSG game, the other side of that. And even for Chelsea as well, they've got obviously the Copenhagen game. They're not through to the next round. It was only 2-1 in Copenhagen. So talk me through your process right now. Which way are you potentially thinking of going with captaincy, Salah or Palmer?
Well, like you say with the Ramadan, which is actually something I didn't even consider with the dilemma, and the fact that I was considering other options. Of course, you'd say that because I've been doing it for the past couple of weeks, but that was just um, pure vibes. I think you'd have to say,
Yeah.
rather than actual any knowledge going in support of my decisions. This time, I think, having seen how shattered Salah seemed after the PSG game when he got hooked. And of course, we're going to need our full strength team to have any chance of progressing, because if we play like we did on Wednesday, then we will go out.
Yeah.
I do think there's a good opportunity. We see Harvey Elliott start over Salah, considering the impact he had. I think that would be a reward for him, because he's not going to start against PSG, regardless of how well he did when he came off the bench with his first touch. That's all well and good, but you've still got to start Salah against PSG. So I feel like the next best reward that Elliott can expect would be a start ahead of Salah on Saturday. Now, I know the one thing going Salah's way, though, is the fact that he is such a professional that I know he will be desperate to play to increase his goal contributions, because he'll be very well aware that he is on for a record-breaking season, and against Southampton, he could arguably wrap it up already against them. So It's a tricky one, really. It just depends on Slot, really, and the fact that he had the confidence, and he went for taking Salah off, and albeit with only 3 minutes left. I don't think that's something Klopp would have done, and I think that showed that he will make changes if he feels it's right for the team. And so I do think there is a good chance that Harvey Elliott will start on Saturday, purely because I think Slot will look at both the fixtures and won't take individual rewards into account because of how big the tie is on Tuesday. And of course, Salah has got every chance of featuring if things aren't going our way, or even if they are. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him feature, but I just feel like his minutes are going to be a risk. And then you consider Chelsea. I do feel like of course, they're in a much better position. You then don't have to consider Ramadan with Cole Palmer. So he is going to be able to consume fluids. He'll be well prepared for the game. He won't have any other things to contend with. And the fixture has an extra day's notice, or 2 days' notice in Chelsea's sake, because they don't play till Thursday, whereas Liverpool play on Tuesday. Are Chelsea playing tomorrow?
No, they play Sunday, don't they?
Well, he still has an extra day than Salah does before his European fixture. I haven't actually even checked. Do you know if, by any chance, if I'm just trying to see if I can tell you without having to ask? Oh yeah, Palmer did play, because I know he wasn't in the squad, was he, for the group stage?
No, they've re-added him back in and he played.
Yeah. I feel like they should have enough with or without him.
Yeah.
And I feel like he will most likely not see out the full game on Thursday, whereas against Leicester, when they're fighting for top four, I think personally the Leicester game is more of a must-win than the Copenhagen one, because I think you would be quietly confident that they should get the job done with whoever they play against Copenhagen.
Yeah.
So I think the safe bet, long story short, would be Palmer.
Okay.
I think that's who I'm going to go for this week. I think that is who I'm tempted by. The only thing going against Palmer really, why it's not flying with all colours, being like, yeah, it's a certainty, is his form. I
Mm.
think he still gets opportunities every game, but the Cole Palmer at the start of the season or last season just has seemed to have gone a little bit quiet. Now, I don't know if he's been changing position or if it's just the way Chelsea are playing of late, but he just doesn't seem to be scoring or creating as many chances as I know why he was so desperately sought after about 6 months ago, or even a bit less than that.
No, yeah, I get that. Obviously, the performance against Southampton, he absolutely racked up data, to be honest. But yeah, Jamie in the chat's just said Palmer got subbed last night because he played really badly. He said he wasn't even rested. He was just rubbish. I haven't had a chance to watch that game back, but if that's kind of the input we're getting as well. He also made a really good point about Elliot potentially starting ahead of Sabitslai rather than ahead of Salah. I think we've seen that already this season. I personally think Salah will start the game. I think they might take him off early though if you're winning quite comfortably.
Yeah, I can see that as well. I can actually see that as well.
I think if you're winning like 4-0 come 50, 60 minute, he gets taken off.
Yeah, but then again, if you're winning 4-0, you'd imagine Salah's had a part in a couple of the goals. So if that's what your mindset is, that he'll get subbed off 3-0 up, 2-0 up even, I think you should still be captaining him.
Yeah.
Because you'd imagine that he's going to have a hand in the goals.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I definitely think he'll have one. And I think to be honest, most people as well will kind of just stick with Mohamed Salah because of how consistent he's been. I think people that maybe are a little bit further back, like yourself, and not where they want to be at this point in the season, maybe it could be worth that gamble on somebody like Cole Palmer. Now, obviously, the form and kind of the results and stuff like that aren't there at the moment, but it is Leicester. They are very, very bad. There's no getting around that. They are a very bad side, but so are Southampton. And there could be that side of it where you just do go with Palmer, you take the gamble, you take the risk. But I still think Salah, for most people, I think still is probably going to be the right choice heading into this game week.
Yeah, fair enough. Just had a little look at the previous games between Chelsea and Leicester. And Palmer has only played one game at Stamford Bridge against Leicester and has a goal and assist in it.
Oh, okay.
Didn't do anything in the reverse fixture though.
No, reverse fixtures are overrated anyway, mate. Like I won't worry about it.
Yeah, it's some good food for thought. They've both got good fixtures.
Yeah,
I can see a few people taking the gamble and going for Palmer. But yeah, his form really does ask questions, because if you knew that Salah was going to get 15, if you knew Salah was going to get 45 minutes guaranteed, and Palmer have the full game, I think people would still be more confident Salah gets a return.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's just the form he's in as well this season it's just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And I do just think he is going to be the safer captain. But let's wait and see. Obviously, the Ramadan factor as well. Andy's put in some good points. He says Ramadan acts like jet lag. 2 days, apparently, you need your body to adjust. I think they've had 2 days right now. Someone correct me if I'm wrong.
When does Ramadan start?
I think it was earlier this week, if I'm not mistaken. But someone please correct me if I'm wrong on that one.
Is it not strictly the start of March? No.
I don't actually know, to be honest. Unfortunately, I'm not. I know there's a lad at work who does it, and I know he's been doing it for a couple days now, I want to say. But if we do have any people who are participating in Ramadan, please do let us know in the comments. Cool. Any final thoughts on your team, mate, before we move on to some questions from people?
No, I think what we've covered is all that's going to be up for debate with my own internal thoughts. I think I'm going to stick with my 11 that I've got playing, and I'm going to toy between Palmer and Salah, and probably flick onto Palmer just so I've got a win-win in my biased head.
Okay, all right. Someone just said in the chat, no way he's going for Bowen captain. That's last week's team, not this week's team. Don't worry, he's not completely mental.
It half paid off last week.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
it did. It neither paid off nor went against me.
You nearly got there, mate. You nearly got there. Let's have a look what Spurs got in the chat.
Although
Go on.
home to Newcastle, are they against Newcastle, who have got a few sketchy things going on? No Gordon, no Hall. I know Isak's going to score, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be a rock at the back.
Well, that is true. Also, I was speaking to a West Ham fan. Apparently, Callum Wilson's got an absolutely unbelievable record against them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was speaking to him at work, and he says every time they play Newcastle, Callum Wilson always scores. So,
Oh
yeah.
my word! Oh, do you remember West Ham won the reverse, and it was such a smash and grab?
It was, wasn't it? It was indeed. Someone said Ramadan is 30 days, so we'll finish at the end of March. So they probably have been doing it for a couple of days, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what we can kind of devise from that one.
You know what, mate? Someone has just laughed about me having Bowen captain, but it's made me think now because that's Monday. No, Tom, that's Monday Night Football.
Yeah,
that
Monday Night Football, notorious for being boring.
Exactly, a nice 1-0 win.
Name me a good game that's happened on a Monday night before. I'll wait.
Yeah, nothing stands out to me.
There's not a game you can go to me. Monday Night Football is incredible, Tom.
What was the last Monday Night Football? No. I don't even know what it was. I'm literally going back here and I can't find one. Leeds seem to play on a Monday night a lot, but that's not the Prem.
That is not the Prem.
Bloody hell. Chelsea West Ham 2-1 Chelsea. Yeah, Bowen scored on the last Monday Night Football.
Okay.
Any thoughts?
Still no. Oh,
right, imagine, right? Bowen scored the last two. He didn't.
Okay.
It was Chelsea Wolves. Chelsea like a Monday night game, it seems.
Do they?
Yeah. Should we move on? Because it sounds like you're getting a bit bored of me now.
No, sorry. I'm trying to do something on my phone at the same time. That was all.
Oh, in which case I'll keep looking back at Monday Night Football games.
You keep looking back at Monday Night Football. I'll ask you some questions. Bowen in for Sharda, says FPL Mandem.
Are Brentford not playing next week?
They are playing next week, so West Ham.
I think it depends. I think, like you had mentioned that you're going to say, I think it's heavily dependent on how many players you're going to play next week. If you're sacrificing a player here that's going to fill 11 places, then I don't think that's a wise choice. I think you've got to. Well, I think you've got to be wary of having 11 players playing on the pitch next week, but also, of course, I don't know how much Sharda plays. So
he plays quite a lot. He's quite decent in the 4-3-3. He gets a lot more chances than you'd think.
Well, if he plays full stop, I think he's not worth the risk of sacrificing when you're not going to have a player.
Okay.
But if you've got a full team and you're just changing the player or changing the face in the 11 that you're playing, then that's fair enough. Then go for it. It's a great sub. It's just next week maybe a bit tricky if you're going to be lacking players.
Okay. All right. Anton says
a man that's got 8 players in his team.
Yeah, I have Gordon, Cunha, Hall, Isak, and Mateta. I've already used my wild card. Do I need to take a -8 this week? Jesus, probably, mate. It's not looking good for you, is it? There, because
no, I don't think he needs to take a -8. You just
Hall's
have
out for the season. Hall's out for the season.
Oh, and he's already used his wild card.
Yeah. Hall's gone for the season.
Don't think. If he's got one free transfer, I think you can get away with it this week because I don't think the fixtures are really like screaming like out and out players. I know Chelsea have got a good fixture. I know Liverpool do, but I don't think there's anyone that you need to be like properly ransacking your team for this week. And especially with some big Champions League, Europa League, Conference League games in the week, I think if you can get an 11 on your for this game week, then I think that would be enough. So if you have to make a transfer, that's one thing. but I don't think you need to take a -8 with that. I imagine you're going to have players that will fill the team at least.
I mean, we'll ask Anton what the rest of his bench is looking like.
Yeah, let's see your team. If you've got Onuachu on your bench, then there's a starter.
Yeah, there's a guy who's a guaranteed starter, really, isn't he? Oh dear.
He was a menace against us last time.
Aye, maybe again, lad.
Mm.
Right, let's move on. Let's take a look at how my team obviously got on last week and the plans that I've got for it going forward in future weeks. So here it is on screen: 61 points, a small green arrow from around 11k to 10k. We're doing pretty well at the moment, to be honest. Obviously, we got that captaincy decision right last week between Salah and Palmer. Very, very happy with that one. We kept, obviously, Visser ahead of Cunha. That one has paid dividends already. And, of course, you've got Daniel Munoz in there as well, who's pretty much picking up attacking returns every single week at the moment, it seems like. Is one of the most transferred in players as well heading into this week with a, of course, blank next game week. So a lot of people maybe haven't kind of thought that one through, but we'll obviously talk about him in a little bit when we talk about defenders. But overall, pretty decent week to say the least. In terms of how the team is lining up for this week, I'm not planning on making any transfers. We'll talk through, obviously, the players that I am looking to do and potentially move on. But yeah, we're going to leave the team as is. It's pretty decent. I would have liked Hall to be in there rather than Huijsen, however you want to pronounce it. But it is what it is. We'll play him. Bournemouth aren't a bad side. They're a pretty decent side for XG conceded, so I don't mind that. In terms of how the team is going to look next week and my transfer plans, we're going to be taking a -4, even though we've got 3 free transfers. So we're going to take Hall out for Gavardiol. Trent is going to come out for Gabriel. Who was the other one? Palmer's going to go out for Anthony Elanga. And Isak is going to come in. Isak's going to go out for Erling Haaland. That's the plan, and that's what I'm kind of lining up with. That then means I think we've got the best captain in 29 and 30 with having Erling Haaland. Plays Brighton in 29, then plays Leicester in game week 30. What do you think to those moves there, lad?
Solid moves, yeah, very nice.
Yeah, you a fan of those moves?
I am indeed.
Oh, that's good then, isn't it?
Sorry, I don't have too much more to add, to be honest. I was trying to work out how to get Haaland in myself before we started this, but I think it would just be a bit too much faffing to worry about this week. But it's not beyond the realms. It's just it would. I mean, it's not beyond the realms. It would just means taking out Isak forever, which isn't too bad for next week. But then also jumbling around with probably a -4 or even worse. So I'm wondering whether it's worth doing it or not. We'll come to that next week, though.
Okay, all right, okay.
Haaland is a great shout, though. I do think so.
I really like Erling Haaland purely for the captaincy appeal. And as well, I think it's better getting in early doors on him. When I wildcard in 31, I think a lot of people are going to want him because City are potentially going to have 2 double game weeks coming up in 33 and 36. I think getting in early on the ground floor is probably going to be the play. And I think there's going to be a lot of value in it. And obviously switching off Cole Palmer, yeah, he's a good player, whatever. He will do very good. But at the same time, I feel like Cole Palmer's kind of time's up now. There's no more double game weeks coming up for Chelsea. That's it. So why kind of have him? He's not got a great fixture in the blank either with Arsenal away.
That's definitely something to consider. I like that. I like your thought process. I like being able to do absolutely nothing to do with football, and then these streams come up and you just spoon feed me. And my team's going to look like your brother's team at the start of the season, just completely the same as yours.
Hey, come on now. Alfie's a good young man. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he does, because he followed the man.
He does follow the man, but that's fine.
To a T.
To a T. Hey, it's Steve now, isn't it? To be honest.
Oh, is he copying you now?
Oh, Steve's always copying me, mate. You know what I mean? Bless him. What was I going to say to you? I can't remember what I was going to say to you. Yeah, that's kind of the transfer plans I've got. Then we're going to wildcard in 31, attack the double in 32, attack the doubles in 33, free hit in 34, and then, yeah, we've got no other chips to play the rest of the season with, but because the team will probably be in a really decent position from the wildcard, we'll have a lot of transfers built up to a target, doubles in 36, any blanks in 37 that might happen. And then, yeah, just have fun on the final week, I guess.
Happy days.
Happy days indeed, mate. Happy days indeed. Right, let's move on then. Let's keep this show rolling. What should we start off with first? Let's go for the betting data. This is, of course, from Rob T FPL. Looks like there's going to be a lot of goals this week, to be honest. Quite a few one-sided games with the looks of things as well. Palace, Ipswich, Chelsea, Leicester, Arsenal, Manchester United. The bookmakers really fancy an Arsenal for a clean sheet there. And then Liverpool, obviously, against Southampton as well. Another predicted kind of heavy one-sided game. The Tottenham-Bournemouth game as well looks like that's going to have plenty of goals in it. So maybe one to watch out for on Sunday. But what's your pick of the bunch there, Jake, from the betting markets?
I think Chelsea-Leicester looks good, considering the fact that we're toying with the captaincy choice. I think Liverpool Southampton is just simply looking at what, like, on paper, what the results should curtail. On our predictions league that we do, I have actually gone for a 2-1 win for Liverpool. I don't think it's going to be quite so plain sailing, especially with especially with Sydney Sweeney coming for round 2 on Tuesday.
Oh, you can't beat Sydney Sweeney. She's a good one.
Well, there is that, isn't there? And I think that's going to be the whole squad. I know we alluded to that with just Morgan Rogers a few weeks ago, but I think the whole squad having Sydney Sweeney over for a second bite at the cherry could mean that whoever you want to blank in on Saturday, as the analogy, could see a little bit of complacency, or not complacency, but just maybe tired legs from the round that went ahead on Wednesday, because it was what's the word? It was a smash and grab.
Yeah.
And so there were going to be a lot of tired legs if there's no rotations. And you've got to be wary of the game coming up. So I don't think 3.45 and 0.78 actually will be what happens. I think Southampton have got every chance of scoring, and I think Liverpool will do well if they get to 3 goals, because I think it could be a little bit of an anticlimax, that.
Okay.
I don't know what your thought process is on that. Whether you would you back those statistics?
I think I would. I think the Palace one's probably a little bit too high for me. If they've got no Mateta, I don't know if they. I don't think Nketiah's that guy. So I think that one. I don't think they'll score as many as they can. Obviously, we spoke about Villa's Champions League record as well prior in these streams being absolutely abysmal. I think Brentford could absolutely rip them apart this week, to be honest.
Yeah, they still are proving the statistics right, aren't they? Have they still not won it after a Champions League?
Nope, still they've only won one, and it was like the first game where they battered Young Boys. Since then, they've not even bothered.
Yeah. Well, this is a tricky game for them to bounce back onto.
Exactly.
Not that they need to bounce back after a very good victory in midweek.
No, I understood what you said though. I got you.
Cheers, mate. I think Bournemouth actually have been a bit hard done by. I think they should probably have a better XG than Spurs.
Yeah, I guess it's probably the fact that they're the away side. That'll probably play some part into it, I reckon.
Even so, would if you had to put your money where your mouth is, would you be Spurs or Bournemouth this week?
I probably would go. I think a draw. I think 2-2 seems like a game that could go. To be fair though, Spurs were. I don't know if you saw any of the game on last night. Spurs were woeful. Genuinely woeful.
I saw the goal, to be honest, which was comical in itself.
Yeah, they were terrible. They really were really bad. So yeah, I don't think I'd go for that one at all.
Yeah. Be interesting to see how United Arsenal plays out as well, because as much as United have been really subpar this year, and as much as Arsenal scored 7 against PSV, I think the Old Trafford fans will get behind that game. I think it will be a feisty atmosphere, and I do think sometimes that is all it takes for United to play that one game of their life, which they do like to do against the big sides. That being said, if Arsenal get an early goal, it could well be an onslaught.
Yeah. Right, let's move on then. Let's take a look at the striker replacements for, of course, Cunha. This is something that might potentially prick your ears, as many listeners as well might be pricked by my information in a second. Obviously, this is the big list of players that I think you should be looking at. We've got Haaland, we've got Mamouche, is how apparently you pronounce it. Mamouche, is that right? How do you pronounce
What
it?
were you saying? Maramouche?
Well, it's not. This is the thing. I've been saying Maramouche, and people are telling me I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, you are. But I saw the comments and stuff on Twitter, and it did make me laugh.
What is
I
it?
think
Go
it
on.
should be Maramouche.
What is it? Go on.
I would call it Marmouche.
Marmouche. I think it is Marmouche. I think
But
I've
I
added
like
an.
Maramouche, and I think if he knew Maramouche,
Yeah. I'm like that with him, really. So.
yeah, and I think, to be fair, I think his mates do call him Maramouche.
Yeah, Marmouche. We'll go with Marmouche. We'll pronounce it correctly. We'll do it right. We've got Wood, Visser, Delap, Strand Larson, Evan Nielsen, and Beto. I think we've kind of got a few kind of different camps here. Obviously, we've got Haaland as the premium at the top, and that will require people to do a lot of restructuring. Then we've probably got that middle bracket, I'd say, of Marmouche, Wood, Visser. Then I think the rest of the players are kind of your gambles, if you like, to be honest. What are you making of the list, and who kind of stands out
You're
for you?
hyping up Liam Delap.
Hey lad, Liam Delap somehow made it on here, but you know my feelings towards Liam Delap. He's not a pick for me, but he might be a pick for others.
Rory.
Old Rory. Go on.
I think.
Go on. There you go.
What, did you ask me a question? And
I asked
was
you.
that whilst
I asked for your thoughts. I thought who stands out for you, and you just went silent on me.
I think I was interrupting you whilst you were asking the question, unfortunately,
right.
so I just didn't
Go
listen.
on,
Yeah, I mean, I said to you before, I think Beto is definitely an option. I don't know how to call that Wolves Everton game because, of course, under Moyes they've looked considerably more robust to break down, and they've found the back of the net several more times than you'd have expected. I think they've not really suffered as terribly as I thought they would when Ndiaye went off injured. Beto's hit the ground running finally. But then on the contrary, I think Wolves look like a much better side than they are placed in the league. I think the manager has revitalised them to some extent. But then you've got the whole question of Cunha and can they do it without him, because they have looked at certain times this season like a one-man team. So I think the only way to really balance that out is the fact that they're at home. So I'm not too sure where to stand on the Wolves and Everton train in attacking means. I'm happy that I've got Pickford in goal for the next two, and I would be happy if I had Aït-Nouri in defence for the next two. However, attacking wise, I think you have to look elsewhere, in my opinion. I mean, Haaland is a no-brainer. I do think Marmouche and Wood have both got every chance, and the price tag would suggest that they've both got every chance of scoring in that game. I could see Marmouche being that kind of, it just for some reason sits quite nicely with me, imagining Marmouche scoring. And of course, Chris Wood can score against absolutely anyone.
Yeah, agreed. I'm not a big fan of Marmouche, and I've said this in a few videos. If you've seen post hat trick, he's done absolutely nish all, and his data's not really kind of kicked on either. Doesn't see out 90 minutes. And I think for the same price point, you can get yourself Chris Wood, who plays Ipswich in game week 29, United, who are absolutely woeful at the back defensively. He's absolutely banging in goals for fun this season, plays 90 minutes and on penalties. I just think Wood's a much better option.
Yeah, you bent me over and spanked me there, mate. I agree. I think you've argued that pristinely. And I think someone that both of us have not yet mentioned, I'm sure you're all for Johan Wisser if he was an option to consider, especially with the shadows of the Champions League in Villa's mind still.
Yeah, I think the Villa fixture's the best one out of the bunch. However, though, I think his 29 and 30 fixtures aren't ideal.
Yeah.
And I think I probably...
Is your number one Chris Wood then?
My number one for people that aren't going to get Haaland probably would be Chris Wood. Purely down to the game week 29 Ipswich. Because if you're not having Haaland in 29, you're probably going to be looking at somebody like a Chris Wood for captaincy with Ipswich.
Is that goal involvements, that first column?
Yeah, goal involvements.
Jesus, 21.
Yeah, he's having an absolutely mad season. 2 behind Haaland for goal involvements.
brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Fair play to him.
So yeah, pretty decent stuff to be honest, mate. Um, the other pick I wanted to talk about is obviously Strand Larson on there. Now, I think he's terrible at football and really doesn't know how to take a lot of big chances. But at the same time, we bought Cunha in based off the fixtures that we were seeing coming up for him, and of course that Southampton fixture. Do you think he's worth a punt at 5.2 million or not?
I think the price tag is the one thing that is in his favour, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because, like you say, he misses chance after chance, but there are a certain amount of chances he's got to finally put away. And when you look at those fixtures, maybe not the Everton game, but the Southampton game and the West Ham game at home, you would like to think that in both of those he gets opportunities
yeah,
and not just being the one smash and grab that he needs to take, which is something that he may not be able to to reliably do. Whereas the Everton game, I think he's going to find it a lot harder to break the side down, and that could be a bit of a stalemate.
mm,
So yeah, I mean, it's up to whoever may want to go for it. It depends on what your plans are. But yeah, if you've been hit on the wrong end of a Mateta and Cunha ban and injury, then I think someone like that could allow you to take one of them out and maybe just about fund enough for Haaland. I think that's what you've got to consider is if you're making a few minuses, or if you're taking a few transfers in order to get Haaland in, then someone cheap that has got some good fixtures on paper, like Strand Larson, would be a good option.
yeah. All right, I can see that. I can see that. Um, Give me your top pick then, lad. Who's the one? Who's the one that you're potentially going to look at for your Cunha replacement?
I mean, this week, I think I am going to have to just hold. I think that is what the wise thing is to do. I think if I wasn't going to hold striker wise only, I would be more inclined to go for Wood over Haaland, regardless of price tag.
Hmm.
Just with Forest being at home, Wood scores against anyone, and like you say, um, he's having one of those seasons. Um, but next week, I do think I'm going to have a little look into getting Haaland in.
Okay, okay, all right. I like it. I like it. Let's keep the show ticking, and then we'll finish up and answer some of your guys' questions. Defender replacements. Of course, Lewis Hall out injured. I've outlined 4 defenders that I'm looking at, and they're going to be my top picks. It's going to be Gavardio, Ait Nouri, Kirkez, and then finally Munoz for the people that are going to free hit in 29. Who's your standout pick there, Jake? Obviously, you've mentioned Ait Nouri before. A few people in the chat as well I've seen have already mentioned Gavardio. Who's your top pick from those ones? Or if I've missed anybody
I
out.
mean, yeah, a Norwich. Go on.
I was just saying if I've missed anybody out as well, you let me know.
Oh, okay. But I think, yeah, Eight Nori's got the best fixtures on paper. We've already mentioned that a few times that Wolves have got the best next 3 or 4 games. Because, I mean, you can't even see that on here, but on game week 31, they've got Ipswich. Is that a double game week 31?
No, 32.
But yeah, so you got what? So you got Ipswich and then a potential double, or have Wolves not got any chance of there being a double for them?
Can't remember off the top of my head, to be honest.
Yeah, regardless, for the next 4 game weeks, you got some very good fixtures on paper, especially defensively. I think Southampton, West Ham, both teams that don't score too many goals. Everton have hit a bit of form over the past couple of months, but then again, it is at Molineux, so that will benefit Ait Nori and co. Kirkez, really like him. I think the fixtures after the Spurs game look more perceivable for him to get a clean sheet. Attacking wise, though, he could get something against any of them. I really like Brentford and Ipswich being home games as well. So now that I've seen that, that has made my eyes light up ever so slightly. And yeah, like you say, Munoz, it's a shame that he's got a blank because he's arguably been the best. He's been that, what's the word, up and coming player on FPL.
Yeah.
He really has hit some form and some consistency for a fullback. Yeah, shame that they don't have a Leicester penned in the middle of those 2 fixtures because they are beautiful fixtures to have.
Yeah.
So if you've got him, definitely don't get rid of him. just because he's got a blank. And if you don't have him, I think you do need to be considering having him in after the blank game week, unless, of course, like you mentioned, you're planning on free hitting for the week. Guardiola's an interesting one. I'll let you argue that point.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Gavardiol for Trent as my replacement, purely because of the Leicester fixture. And then again on wildcard, I think he's going to be quite a popular pick with the double game weeks coming up. He's up there as well. I think he's second in terms of expected goal involvement per 90, only behind Trent, and obviously Munoz sat in third. So you're getting yourself a good player who, despite City's poor form defensively, he's still scored quite well this season. Now you factor in he's got double game weeks coming up, better fixtures, no Champions League football. I think he's going to be a really good asset to have over the next few weeks.
Yeah, lack of Champions League definitely is a plus for him.
100%. Especially with old Peppy boy at the wheel.
Exactly. But no, good for suggestions.
Anybody you think I've missed out, potentially?
Not necessarily. I mean, it depends on how cheap you're looking to go for. I think you could always argue maybe for someone like Jake O'Brien, he's bound to be dead cheap.
He is.
And Everton are, like I say, they are resolute at the back. And he popped up with his first goal against Brighton, I believe, the other week. So yeah, he seems like a 90-minute player. And then of course there's a couple of others you could look into if you really wanted to consider Everton, but they've got some decent fixtures. Other than that, off the top of my head, I'm not too sure who I would recommend. Yeah, so I think you picked the best of the bunch.
Okay, sweet. Right, before we finish up, let's answer some of your guys' questions. Starting off first, Rishi says, I have no free transfers, have Cunha. Should I get Marmoush or Visser? Which one would you go for, lad?
We've got no free transfers. I probably wouldn't do either this week. I'd wait a week.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are desperate to go, I think Visser at home to Villa does seem like a good fixture at this time, straight from Champions League.
Yeah, I like that. I think I prefer Visser as a Premier League player. I know the fixtures I've said aren't great in 29 and 30, but I still think he'll outscore I nearly said it again. Marmoush. Nearly said it again. Is Palmer to Alanga, Trent to Gavardiol, and Mateta for Haaland a good transfer for next week? I mean, they're very similar moves to what I'm making, so gets a plus from me. Gets you in early on the City players. Obviously, no more double game weeks coming up for Liverpool as well. And Alanga's got Ipswich in 29. So, yeah, I think they're good moves, to be honest, mate.
Is Alanga a lot cheaper than Gibbs White?
Yeah, he's 5.3. Is Anthony Alanga?
And is Gibbs White in the sixes?
Yeah, Gibbs White's 6.5, I want to say.
Right. Yeah, fair enough.
Hi, mate. Who are you guys captaining? I'm going Salah. Who are you going for, Jake? Are you going to go for Palmer or are you going to stick with Salah?
I might go Bowen.
Nice. Yeah, of course.
It's between, for me, I think you've got to, if you're sensible, you're going to go Salah, Palmer, Bowen in that order. But I think for me, I'm going to avoid Salah purely because as a Liverpool fan, I think there's still a very good chance that Palmer will do something. So I think the sensible option would be for me, if I want to just go for a win-win, if Salah does things, I'm more than happy. Let's be serious. But if he doesn't, and I've captain Palmer, I think he's the next best chance of some points.
Okay, I like that. Someone put, seeing your stream scared me for a moment. I thought I'd missed the deadline. Nope, you're all good. Hudson... If
you see your stream these days, it means the deadline hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. Usually, if I'm streaming, you've probably got about 2 hours.
Go back to bed.
Yeah, get you sent back to bed, pal. Andy's asked us about Hudson-Odoi. I'm just checking on his minutes in recent weeks. Coming back from an injury, it looks like. 2 90s in back-to-back games, but the data's a bit pish, to be honest. So I probably would prefer Alanga or Morgan Gibbs-White in that midfield department, to be honest. What other questions have we got? Let's have a look. I'm selling Trent for Gavardiol. Nice. Who's the better captain for game week 30? Foden, Salah, Haaland, Cliver, or Mateta? Well, what I'm going to do for you here is rule out Mateta, Kluivert, and Foden. You've got a straight shootout between Salah with Everton at home and Haaland with Leicester at home. Now,
You go Haaland.
I think I probably would go Haaland at the moment, but at the same time, we could get to that week and everyone goes Salah yet again because how good he's been. But yeah. Sweet. Transferred in Gvardiol this week for Hall. Very nice move, mate. I like that one. I like that one. You know, that gets my seal of approval. Of course, I'll be live tomorrow as well from 7:15 in the morning. So if you're up nice and early and you want to see this beautiful little face, it's fine. There we go.
I might have a little listen on the way from the train station.
Yeah, get Gemma's mum on. She'll love it. She'll be like, "Oh, who's this nice, attractive man talking down through the speaker?" Oh, it's just my loser friend, Dom. Someone said, I got Gakpo. Should I bench him? I have Timber or Rodgers on the bench. Let me have a look at the predicted lineups 1 second.
Well, I'd imagine Timber starts against United.
Yeah, I think Timber will probably start. Who am I looking for? Tell me, Jake.
Gakpo. Timber. Rodgers.
Well, I think Rodgers and Timber will probably start. Gakpo's not in the predicted lineups, so yeah.
I don't know how much that means though, because if he's fit, is he not someone that would start? So you're resting Diaz, or do you think Gakpo would start against PSG?
I reckon he could maybe give Gakpo the last 30 and then see how he feels for PSG.
Yeah. But then, as we know, Rodgers is not the one.
No, Rodgers' post-Champions League record is abysmal, but he can still cover off. Like he might change our mind, but I don't think he's that guy. For me personally. Next week is finally going to destroy some dead teams. Yeah, all the dead teams that are doing quite well at the moment will just fall because there's blanks, which is great to see. Jake, I'm going to ask you our favourite question of the week. What is going to be the highest scoring game of the game week?
I'm going to go for Spurs-Bournemouth.
Spurs-Bournemouth, okay, that's a sensible one. That's a very sensible one. I'm going to go for Wolves-Everton at 8 o'clock. They're making us wait that long for it.
It's a Saturday night game. Brilliant.
It's got to be the best game of the weekend. You know what I mean? It's definitely not got 0-0.
Why would you have Saturday night football invented in the last few years if you're not going to play Wolves against Everton in that slot?
It's honestly, the Saturday night football slots are the dullest spots if I didn't play FBL. Brentford Villa and Wolves Everton as your two like Saturday night games. Like that's
is that tomorrow as well? Brentford Villa.
Brentford Villa's at 5:30. Wolves Everton at 8. Like they're not wetting the whistle. Do you know what I mean? They're just not. You're limp for both of those.
Yeah. Meanwhile, you've got Liverpool playing at 3.
Yeah.
I don't know who else. The Spurs playing at 3 against Bournemouth.
No, they're on Sunday.
Okay.
The 3 o'clockers tomorrow are pretty poor. Brighton, Fulham, Palace, Ipswich. That's all we've got.
You know what though? Brighton, Fulham, 2 decent sides. I think that's got better potential than Wolves, Everton.
All right, I was having before we finish up and see what other questions people have got for us. I was having a discussion with some Leeds fans today at work, and they were saying to me they reckon next year they'll get top half, and I told them that they're absolutely delusional.
I think, as well as they're playing in the Championship, and maybe potentially getting a keeper that can actually stay consistent.
Yeah,
I think as well as they are playing, and they are clearly a Premier League side for they are too good to be in the Championship. But oh my word, the gulf in the Premier League is getting bigger and bigger by the year.
Yeah,
and I think we're finding that with the fact that it looks like we're going to get back-to-back promoted sides all going back down.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Leeds fans need to suck it up and be begging for 17th.
Yeah. I literally was going through the table. I was like, yeah, you might finish above Wolves if they lose Cunha. And they were going, we'll beat Fulham. And I was going, no, you won't. Fulham are a good side, well managed, play nice football. And they were going,
Fulham could still get to Europe.
And they were going, we beat Palace. And I'm like, no, you won't beat Palace. Palace are a good team. Like if you take out the first 8 weeks of the season, Palace are sat 4th in the table.
They've got a very good championship team, and it is too good to be in the championship. But I don't think they've got a very good squad for the Premier League. I don't think they have any standout Premier League class players. I think they've got a few very good players, but it's like Dan James. He was not very good in the Prem. He was very inconsistent, and yet he looks fantastic in the Championship.
Yeah.
Uh,
I, ju- I,
I,
ju-
I don't,
I just
go
don't
on.
see. I don't see the Premier League talisman there.
No, I agree.
I don't see that guy that if you're like losing, he will pop up and score the winning goal for you.
Yeah.
I don't see it, and I don't. They can argue we're going to spend a load of money when they come up. They might do, but you've got to get that recruitment bang on. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah, I mean, if they can survive, if they come up and they survive next year, then the year after there is a good opportunity for them to push into the top half because then they can kick on from there. But I think it's all about just keeping your place in the league.
Yeah, agreed. I think
Don't bite off more than you can chew.
no, get safe, then work on from that. Other than that, Sodom.
To be honest, I kind of am enjoying that you've said that that's what they're thinking, just so that we can watch them slowly shut that smile down.
Yeah, I can't wait for it. It's going to be great. It's genuinely going to be great. So, yeah.
So all for Leeds to go up so they can come straight back down.
Exactly. We all hate Leeds. Everyone knows.
Meanwhile, Coventry will come up in the playoffs and bloody get top half.
Yeah. Oh dear. Right, we're going to wrap it up. Like I said, I'll be live tomorrow at 7:15 in the morning. So make sure you're getting your alarm set nice and early for that one. If you do have any questions as well, reach out, drop me a DM on Twitter. But like I said, I'll be live tomorrow for team reviews, answering your guys' question nice and early on. Jake, any final thoughts from you, mate?
No, I will, look forward to next week when you will find out whether or not I captained Jared Bowen.
Oh, well. Here we go. All right, guys. See you in a bit. Not Jared.